Once a veteran finds out that they can do a VA construction loan, the most common question that I get is, what is my first step? In this video, I'm going to break it all down for you with a step-by-step guide tailored to the 3 most common situations that I see. Scenario number 1 will be what to do if you don't own a land and also don't currently own a home. Scenario number 2 will be what to do if you do already own land. And scenario number 3 will be what to do if you already own a home and your goal is to either sell or rent that home out when your new custom home has been completed. And because this is a little bit of a longer video, I decided to break this down in chapters so that way you can jump to the specific scenario that applies to your situation. Before we jump into it though, we have a free resource for you. I have a VA loan guide that goes over everything you need to know about VA construction loans and also everything else that goes into the VA loan, just in case that maybe applies to you in the near future. If you want to get access to that free VA loan guide, I have it linked down below in the description. We update this guide about once to maybe twice a year at the most, and that just really depends on if there is new information or additional guidelines that need to be updated, so that way you know you have the most current and up-to-date information about the VA home loan benefit. So if you want to download that, click the link down below in the description. For our first scenario, this is going to be what you need to do if you do not already own land, which means you are going to be purchasing land and financing the construction all in one loan. If you aren't aware of kind of how this all works, I've done some how-to videos in regards to, what all goes into the VA construction loan when it comes to an overall guideline perspective. So if you want to check out one of those videos, I'll link that above and down below in the description. But specifically for this scenario, this is just going to be exactly as I mentioned. You're purchasing land and financing the construction all in one loan. So you're going to have a few things that you need to do that would be different than someone who already does own land, which means that step number 1 for you is going to be talking to a VA loan specialist. But before you just jump on Google and start searching for VA loan specialists, here's what you need to understand. There are a lot of lenders who do not do VA construction loans or even offer them, which means that it's going to be a lot harder for you to be able to find somebody that offers exactly what you're looking for. Because you got to think the difference here is you're not buying a pre-existing property, you're buying something that is to be built, which means it's completely custom. And the reason I preface that you don't want to just jump on Google is because here's what I see often happening when veterans do this. I end up having them call me after they've called 2 or 3 very popular lenders that are out there. You're probably thinking of one already. And guess what they tell the veteran? Well, they like to tell you that VA construction loans don't exist, or they say, hey, yeah, they do exist, but no one is offering them. Why do I know that? Because I used to work for companies like that. And unfortunately, they like to tell their employees to tell the consumer, which would be you, those exact things. And I'm not a fan of that. So here's what you need to do. Find a VA loan specialist that offers the VA construction loan. You end up calling around to a bunch of lenders. You're actually going to need to provide an application and credit pull every single time at every lender, because they will not allow the credit pulls and the applications to transfer over to different places. So you want to work with somebody who has the ability to shop for different options for you, which would be someone like myself. I'm a mortgage broker, which means that as a broker, I have the ability to have you only need to complete one loan application, and then we only need to do one credit pull. Because we are brokers, we can take your file and credit report and we can find which lender offers the best options available to you. I am VA approved and I have done thousands of VA loans, whether they're construction loans or whether they're helping veterans do a pre-existing purchase as well. We can help you no matter where you're located, get connected with the right people. So reach out to us if you would like to work with me and my team. Step number 2 in this process is going to be getting pre-approved. And when we do your pre-approval, we're going to look at your income, your assets, your monthly debts, and then we're also going to look at your credit score. These 4 things encompass the primary focus of what a lender is looking for when qualifying somebody. And what we're going to do is take that information and run it through an automated underwriting system to determine whether or not you are able to qualify or not qualify. Now, I'm not going to dive into guidelines in this video or in these scenarios. So again, if you want to check out one of those videos, it is linked down below in regards to what you need to have in your situation in order to qualify. Which leads us to step number 3, and that is going to be choosing a builder or a contracting team. This is a very important step because you can't just choose any builder. You need to be able to choose a builder that is either A, VA approved already, or B, can get VA approved. If they are not VA approved, they must be able to get on the VA approved list, which means that they must be able to meet certain requirements that the VA is going to expect of them. I have a whole video that I have done on this particular topic that I will also link down below, talking about how to find a VA approved builder. And also, if you have a builder that is not VA approved, exactly what they need to do in order to become VA approved. So if you want to check that video out, I've also linked that one above and down below as well. So that way you can get up to date on that information. Now that you've chosen your builder, step number 4 in this this process is going to be the design phase. Your builder is going to have the ability to help you come up with exactly what you're looking to build. And that way you can get an idea of what kind of estimates you're going to be looking at for whatever your dream home looks like. Maybe you're looking at building a completely custom home where everything is unique to you, or maybe you're looking at building something more modular or a prefab home that maybe has a design that already exists and you want to use something like that. Either way, your builder should be able to provide you with some type of estimates for this particular step. Our fifth step in the process is getting connected with a VA knowledgeable realtor. Now, why did I say a VA knowledgeable realtor? Because there are actually millions of real estate agents out there that exist, but majority of them do not understand the VA loan, and a lot of them are operating with myths in their mind about how the VA loan maybe used to be or what rules that they heard that their broker told to them. So you want to work with a VA knowledgeable real estate agent that understands the VA loan, understands guidelines, and also understands your local area, so that way they can help you navigate the future for your home in regards to what the home could be worth, in regards to what maybe zoning requirements are looking like for that piece of land you're interested in, and also be available to you for negotiating when you are looking to make an offer on that particular piece of land. If you do not have a VA knowledgeable real estate agent and you would like to get connected with one, we can connect you with one in your area. We have a network of over 20,000 real estate agents nationwide, and we can connect you with a real estate agent that is understanding of the VA home loan benefit, and we'll look out for your best interest. Once you've found the piece of land that you are interested in, you've been able to get that piece of land under contract, the next thing you want to make sure that you have done is you have been able to get your construction plans finalized. The reason that I say finalized is because in order for us as your lender to be able to process and underwrite your loan to move it towards the closing table so that way your home can be built, we need not only the land contract, which would be your agreement between you and the seller of that piece of land, but we also need the construction contract, which would be the agreement between you and the builder of your home. Those two things work hand in hand towards getting us to be able to process and underwrite that loan, and they have equal importance. If we only have one or the other, we actually cannot process or underwrite the loan at all, because when we do an appraisal on this property, we need to be able to have both of those contracts in place, so that way the appraiser can make an estimation of what your home will be worth when the construction is completed, because they're making a forecasted appraisal, which means they're acting more in the future even though the home has not been built yet. They cannot do that appraisal without both of those items. So you want to make sure that you have both of those items as early as possible in your timeline. And what I mean by your timeline is specifically in the timeline of your land contract, because if you go under contract with a seller for a piece of land, what that seller is going to expect is that you're going to fulfill whatever agreement you have for that contract within whatever given date that you have agreed upon. For example, if you set a closing date between you and the seller for 30 days, that seller is going to expect that this agreement is finalized, closed, and transferred in 30 days. I highly recommend you do not do a 30-day transaction. I recommend you do longer for land transactions. I would say at least 60 days just to play it safe, because you want to make sure you have that construction contract lined up as well. It's much better to be able to have a longer closing date and close early than to have a shorter closing date and then ask the seller to extend the contract, because in that situation, the seller has the choice of whether they want to accept you extending the contract or not. So to make things easier on everybody, try to make sure that you have both those contracts as early as possible, and you also give yourself enough time within those contracts. Which leads to our sixth step in this process, and that's going to be funding the deal. This is going to be where we finalize your loan amount, where we lock in your interest rate, where we have the underwriter review your file, where we have you send or submit additional documentation that maybe the underwriter requested for your file. This is also where the appraisal is going to be ordered, so that way we can have that squared away. There's a lot of things that happen during this phase. It's a very action-packed process to get to the finish line, but as long as you're working with a VA knowledgeable lender like myself, or someone who really is keeping you informed every step of the way, this should be a very smooth process as well. Once the loan is funded is where the seller of the piece of land that you are purchasing is going to get their funds and be on their way. They no longer own the land and they no longer have any involvement in this transaction. But as for the builder, this is where they're now going to have access to the funds that are agreed upon in your loan amount to be able to build your home. This is really an exciting time because it leads us to our seventh step, and that's going to be build and finalize. This is where you're going to be able to watch your home come together. There's going to be a servicing company and a management company that is involved to help make sure that your builder is on track with the process that was agreed upon. But in this this phase is really where you're kind of sitting back and just hopefully having a smooth construction timeline to get you into your new home. Once that home has been completed, you'll have the ability to do a final walkthrough, sign any additional paperwork, and then hopefully be able to move into your dream home. Okay, scenario number 2, you already own a piece of land. Now you're just trying to figure out what you need to do to be able to construct the home that you are wanting to build. Well, step 1 for you is talking to a VA loan specialist. And if you're wondering where to find a VA loan specialist, you are looking at one. Me and my team specialize in the VA home loan benefit. We've done thousands of VA loans, and we're also mortgage brokers, which means as mortgage brokers, we have the ability to only need you to complete one loan application, and then we also do one credit pull. When we do that, you can now have us work on your behalf to shop your application and credit pull to up to 40 different lenders. If you go and do this on your own, then unfortunately, they're all going to require you to do a application and credit pull. They will not allow you to transfer them over yourself from other lenders because they may not have an affiliation with those lenders. So this allows you to save time, but also allow you to save your credit. So you'll thank yourself. The second step in the process is getting pre-approved. If you're working with me and my team, what we're going to have you do is complete an application. We're going to look over your income, assets, monthly debts, and also your credit. We're going to review those items to determine what you would income and credit qualify for. And depending on what that number looks like, that essentially would be what your loan amount could be for. Now, here's the thing that you need to understand that could vary depending on how you own your land. If you own the land outright and you do not have any loan on that, well, then fortunately now whatever we pre-approve you for is essentially going to be for your entire loan, which would be for the construction, any costs or fees that are rolled into the loan, and that is it. But if you purchase the land and you own the land through a loan, then we're going to have to basically pay off that loan and combine it into this construction loan, because on a one-time close, we cannot keep those two things separate. So whenever we pre-approve you, if your pre-approval, for example, is $500,000 and you own the land with a loan and that loan is about $100,000, well, now you know you have about $400,000 left over for the construction, any fees that are rolled in, any contingency funds, or anything like that. Step number 3 for you is going to be choosing your builder. And when choosing your builder, you want to choose a builder that is either A, VA approved already, or B, is willing to become VA approved. Because in order for you to be able to do the construction loan with a builder, that builder must meet VA's requirements in order to do that. If you want to know what the builder needs to do to meet those requirements or what those requirements look like, I've done a whole video on that. You can check out, that's linked above or down below, and I'll be happy to explain to you exactly what the builder needs to do. That 4th step that you're going to do is now going to incorporate designing your home. Now, the reason this is step number 4 in the process is because if you don't get pre-approved first and you decide you're going to go find a builder and design a home, well, then you don't even know you actually qualify for this property yet, which means that you could go do all this work designing something that you're not really certain you can actually afford. So that's why this is actually step 4 in the process, is because by doing the pre-approval first, you know without a shadow of a doubt that as long as it meets what your pre-approval amount is, you should be able to close on that loan. Once you've got the home design completed and you know exactly what you are building with your builder, then this is where we're going to work on step number 5, and that's going to be funding the deal. Funding the deal is where your lender is going to lock your interest rate, finalize your loan amount. This is also where your loan is going to be reviewed by an underwriter, where we're going to go back and forth on making sure we have all the documents that are needed in order to get us to the finish line. This is also where an appraisal is going to be ordered, because the appraisal process is going to entail the land value and the potential construction value as one loan combined. So that is going to be done during this underwriting and processing phase. The 6th step in the process is going to be the building phase. And this is where the builder is going to have whatever timeline was agreed upon in that initial contract to be able to construct your home. Now, you're not the one that's actually going to be needing to manage the builder. This is actually going to be a management company that's going to be in place to make sure the builder is following the timeline and they are on time throughout the entire build phase. This is also going to be done through the draw phase. The draws are determined based off of the agreement, which means that if the builder is not on time, the management company will be working with the builder to help them make sure that they are getting back on track, so that way we don't cause any additional delays. Once the home has been completed, this is where the final inspection will be done and where you'll also be able to move into your new home. For scenario number 3, this is going to be for those of you who own a home that you are living in and your intention is to either sell or rent that home out when your new custom home is completed. This is actually not an uncommon scenario, so this is why it's a scenario I wanted to include in this video. You see, when you are are owning a home and your intention is to rent or sell that home when your new custom home is completed, this is going to actually have a little bit of a unique variable. And this is because you have a home that has a mortgage payment. Whenever somebody has a home that has a mortgage payment and their intention is to build a custom home, we have to use that existing mortgage payment as an additional debt. You see, normally when you are buying a home on the open market that is already a pre-existing home, which means it's already been completed, it is not a custom build home that is being constructed, you have the ability to offset the rental income if you are going to rent that home out, which means that if your mortgage payment is $2,000 and we can show that on the open market that home can be rented for $2,000, we could actually offset that mortgage payment by giving you $2,000 in rental income to basically wash that mortgage payment completely clean and not have a $2,000 additional debt counting against you. But where it's different on a construction loan is if you have a mortgage, which obviously if you're watching this scenario, you do, we actually cannot use rental income because when your loan closes on a VA one-time close or a construction loan, the loan closes up front. It actually does not close when the home has been completed. Now, why this is important to understand here is because if your loan is closing up front, let's say, for example, it is closing in February of 2025 and your home is not going to be completed until February of 2026, well, your home is not rented right now. You're currently living in that home, which means you're actually making the mortgage payment, which now means we cannot use rental income to offset that mortgage payment because it's now a part of your additional debts. So when qualifying you, you're going to have that additional monthly payment counting against you. Now, for those of you who are planning to sell and you're thinking, well, Josh, I'm not going to rent my home out. I'm just going to sell it when my new home is completed. Well, the same rule applies because we have to be able to show that the home is going to be sold at the time the construction starts, which is when the loan closes. So in order for us to qualify you in this scenario and you are planning to rent the home out, you either A, need to be able to qualify with the current mortgage that you already have along with your new potential mortgage and any other monthly debts, or B, you're going to unfortunately need to rent your home out up front before construction starts. So that way they can use that rental income to offset your mortgage payment. And then in the interim, you're going to need to find a property that you can rent for yourself to live in. Those of you that are looking at selling the property is going to have some of the similar rules in place. You see, if you're planning on selling the property when your new home is completed, you're going to have to be able to qualify with that mortgage payment in place. Whereas if you can't qualify, then you're going to need to have to sell the home up front before construction starts because that's again when the loan would close. So now you're probably wondering, when do you find out whether you need to sell your home or rent your home or what that looks like for your situation? Well, you're actually going to find that out during the pre-approval phase. Before you get pre-approved, you need to make sure you are working with a VA knowledgeable lender that also offers the VA construction loan. If you're wondering where to find that, you're looking at one. I've been specializing in the VA loan for nearly a decade now, and I've helped thousands of veterans navigate the VA loan, whether that's through buying pre-existing, multifamily, and also obviously building a custom home through the VA one-time close. And I'd be honored to help you on your journey as well. And as I mentioned, step number 2 is going to be getting pre-approved. And during this phase is where I'm going to look at your income, assets, monthly debts, and also your credit. And because you own a home, this is where I will be able to identify which scenario applies to your goals, so that way I can help you reach them in a smooth fashion. The pre-approval phase will determine your budget for the land if you are needing to purchase land, and also the budget for the construction. Both of these two things go hand in hand. So if you don't already own land, this pre-approval amount will be determined based off of the land and construction all as one loan, which leads us to step number 3. Step number 3 is going to be assessing your current property. And one thing that I didn't mention a little earlier is also whether or not you used your VA loan when purchasing the current property. You see, if you purchased the property with the VA loan, you're now going to have to use what's called second tier entitlement to construct the new property. And second tier entitlement is essentially going to depend on whatever the county loan limit is in the place that you're looking to build the property, and also how much entitlement you have left over to determine whether or not you can build that new property at 100% financing. If you're wanting to know more about second tier entitlement and how it looks to have multiple VA loans at the same time, I actually just did an update video about 1 week ago that I will link above and down below for you to check out that explains everything that you need to know about second tier entitlement. Step number 4 is going to be choosing your builder or contracting team, and this is going to require you to either A, be working with with a builder that is already VA approved, or B, working with a builder that is willing to get VA approved. Either way, this builder must be able to be approved before the VA will even approve you and that builder to be able to construct this property. If you're wondering what those requirements look like, I've done a whole video on that as well. I will link above so you can go ahead and check that out if that is something that meets your needs. The fifth step in this process is going to be the design phase. The reason we have this placed at the fifth step and not the first step is because if you don't know what you qualify for first, you can find yourself designing and coming up with all these construction plans to build something that you don't even know whether or not you can afford yet, or whether or not you even qualify for. The sixth step in this process is going to be funding the deal. And this is where your lender is going to finalize the loan amount, lock in your interest rate, and appraisal will be ordered. This is where the underwriter is going to do a review of all the documentation that was provided, make sure we have everything we need in order to fund the loan and allow the builder to have the funds available to them so that they can start building the property. And if you're in this phase and you don't already own the land, this is also where the seller of the land you are purchasing is going to get the funds available to them to be able to be on their way, because they are no longer going to be involved in this process. If you own the land, but then maybe you have a loan on that land, well, this is also where the loan on that particular piece of land will be paid off so that it can be applied in part of the new loan that was done. Then the last step in this scenario is going to be the build and finalization phases, which is where the construction is going to be done on your home. And during this phase is when the builder will be working with a management company to make sure they are meeting the timeline that has been set based off of the construction contract that was done at the very beginning. After the home has been completed, you'll have the ability to do a final walkthrough, final inspection, and when you essentially will be able to move into your new home. The last thing I want to leave you with, though, is the most important thing that I will ever talk about on this channel, and that is Jesus loves you and he paid the ultimate price for your life. So if you turn to him, trust in him, and believe in him, he has a beautiful plan and purpose for you. I'll see you in the next one.